So, guys, the Ruben Amorim era begins for Manchester United on Sunday evening, with Amorim taking his first game in charge as a Manchester United new coach slash new manager away against newly promoted Ipswich Town at Portman Road under former United coach Kieran McKenna. Obviously, this is a big occasion for Manchester United. This is a completely new era for this football club. It's a new style of play. It's a new era of management, and it's our 10th new manager in 12 years. So this is a big deal for Manchester United on this Premier League weekend after, quite frankly, a 2-week pathetic international break. Premier League football is back, and I'm kind of hoping Manchester United are going to start well under Ruben Amorim. And obviously, there's going to be a completely different style of play. There's going to be a completely different formation. There's going to be a completely different setup. And there's already players jumping on the bandwagon of positivity already. We know exactly who those players are. And as soon as it starts going wrong, those players will quickly turn on the manager if it starts going wrong. And you know who I'm on about? Marcus Rashford and Casemiro obviously tweeted from training the other day that it was a top world-class training session. It was a top training, and it was a top session of intensity from Manchester United. And it's good coming out with the positivity. It's good coming out with the positives going forward for the weekend, but it will soon quickly turn if things start. Obviously, this has got to work out for Ruben Amorim because we're on our 10th manager in 12 years since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. And Ineos have taken a massive gamble on a manager that has done very well for Sporting Lisbon in the Portuguese League. And no disrespect to the Portuguese League compared to the Premier League. The intensity and the quality levels in both leagues are completely night and day from each other. And it's a big ask for Ruben Amorim to turn Manchester United around. And obviously, he has to be given time. He has required patience. It is going to take a period of time for Man United to be back where they need to be. And obviously, you know, we've seen all that before. We've heard all that before. And we've been patient long enough. We've heard it enough. And I think for me, logically, we need to start hitting the ground quickly because one defeat or one bad result and it'll all start turning on the manager again. And I'm completely behind the new manager. I am massively behind Ruben Amorim. I think as a style of play, it's going to be an interesting one to see. I think the setup he goes with is going to be another interesting point. And I think the change of formation, it's going to be interesting if that's going to benefit the players or if that's going to be a negative. And I think, you know, a lot of players are probably going to realise that, you know what, this is a new completely era now. This is not the Erik ten Hag Manchester United anymore. Ruben Amorim has come in from Sporting Lisbon. He's brought all his coaches with him. And I don't think those players have got anywhere to hide if it starts going wrong. And I don't want it to go wrong. I want it to be a positive outcome for this manager because Ineos have taken a massive gamble sacking a manager and bringing one in midway through a season. And I want Ruben Amorim to be successful. I am going to be behind him if it starts going wrong. And I'm not going to blame the manager if the results start going pear-shaped. I think the blame would have to be put on Ineos for not making the managerial change in the summer when we won the FA Cup against Manchester City. And that was apparently enough and good enough to keep Erik ten Hag in a job where maybe in hindsight, Erik ten Hag should have been shown the door. Even though we won the FA Cup, Manchester United might have been in a better shape this season if we would have brought a new manager in with all his coaches. So obviously, Ruben Amorim, we all want him to be successful. We all want him to be a great coach for this football club, and we want him to work out because we don't want to be sat here in 2 to 3 years' time discussing yet again another manager has been sacked and another manager has been shown the door. That is not what I want. I don't think the Manchester United fans want that, and I don't think the supporters will want to see that happening either, because if it doesn't work and results get worse, where do Manchester United turn then? I think, you know, the worrying thing I'm hearing and the worrying thing that I've got deep concerns about is the fact that Manchester United have told Ruben Amorim that don't expect much money to be spent in January. We don't expect a massive overhaul of this squad in January or even in the summer. And you've basically got to go with the players you've already got. I think that is a very, very big worry for Ruben Amorim, especially with him making his managerial debut in the Premier League against Ipswich away at Portman Road on Sunday, with the return of Premier League football, which is a massive positive for everybody who loves Premier League football, including myself. I'm glad we've got Premier League football on, especially after watching England play two BTECs in Ireland and Greece. It wasn't exactly hard to beat both of them in hindsight. I'm worried that if it doesn't work, they will blame the manager. I don't think Ruben Amorim will be able to be blamed. I think if it does go wrong, it has to be put on the board of Ineos. It has to be blamed on the owners. It has to be blamed on the people that Sir Jim Ratcliffe brought in to work alongside the new manager near Christmas period. If you're basically telling him that there's no money to spend in January and don't expect a massive overhaul of the squad in the summer, and you've got to go with what you've got, then I'm sorry to say, in hindsight, we will end up back in that situation in 2 to 3 years' time. And I'm afraid it will happen because you can't expect Ruben Amorim to go with these players. You can't be expecting him to turn this squad into an elite squad. You can't expect a manager of the quality that Ruben Amorim is to make these players into world beaters. If he deep down knows that squad ain't good enough, and he knows he needs 5 to 6 to 7 players to fix this mess, and Ineos are basically telling him, well, don't expect a massive overhaul. January's going to be tight, and the summer's going to be the same. Then, if I was Ruben Amorim, I would be looking at this situation very quickly, because I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's correct. And I don't think it's fair if it goes wrong that everyone's going to blame him. I'm afraid to say it will have to be blamed on Ineos for not backing a manager. And this is the problem we had under Erik ten Hag. They didn't back him properly. They didn't give him what they wanted, what he wanted. And they didn't get in the players he desperately wanted at Manchester United Football Club. And if they're basically dictating to Ruben Amorim again, you've got to go with what you've got, and you've got to use the current players we have, then I'm sorry to say Ruben Amorim will be sacked in 2 to 3 years' time, because that squad isn't good enough. Those players are not on an elite level. That squad has got a lot of players that should not be at this football club. And you're basically expecting him to turn these players into world beaters. I'm afraid to say I think that's wrong. I don't think it's correct. And I don't think it's fair. Because if it does go wrong, if you blame Ruben Amorim, which I won't blame if it goes wrong, I want it to work out. But if he's expecting to use players like Lindelof, Maguire, Luke Shaw, Malacia, Mason Mount, Casemiro, Ericsson, Anthony, Rashford, Delot, Johnny Evans, Buendia, if you're expecting him to use players on the level of that calibre, then how are you expecting him to succeed? Because if he requires 67 players to turn this Man United squad into an elite squad, because coming out of Man United, Ruben Amorim wants to hit the ground running very quickly. He wants that mentality that we are going to need time, but we don't have time on our side. He's also come out and quoted, we've been living in the Sir Alex Ferguson era ever since he retired. And he's probably right. I think everyone expected Manchester United to be fine once Sir Alex Ferguson retired, and they expected that mentality to carry on even after he's gone. I'm afraid to say the players have basically been living on that and are trying to carry on with, well, we need to do what we did when Sir Alex was here. We've got to move on from that. And because we've been living in the shadow of the past, Man United haven't got anywhere. And the problem is, because we've made so many bad managerial appointments and we brought too many bad players and got rid of players we really should have kept, Man United have ended up on their 10th manager in 12 years. I'm not surprised by that, because Manchester United should have got the appointment right once Sir Alex Ferguson retired. And that never happened. If you would have got Pep Guardiola in then, or Jose Mourinho, I think Manchester United would have been absolutely fine. But when you go from David Moyes to Van Gaal to Mourinho to Solskjaer to Erik ten Hag to Rangnick, and now we're on Ruben Amorim, you just think of that list. Is that list going to keep on growing, or is that list going to start decreasing? Because I want this to work out. I want Man United to be back where we all want them to be. We want them to become the most successful club in English football again. That's not going to happen if the manager is going to be forced to use players he does not want. And I will feel sorry for Ruben Amorim because he probably realises he's walked into that training ground and he realises the amount of crap he's got to use to turn into an elite mentality squad. I think he is going to need miracles. I think it's going to take something huge for Ruben Amorim to turn these players into something special, because there's a lack of quality in that squad. There's a lack of leadership, and there's a lack of quality throughout the whole team, from the goalkeeping department to the midfield to the attack and to the defence. And obviously, we have picked up injuries on this international break, which again is probably not going to help us. But I think the players who are out injured, I don't think are going to be a huge miss in my view, because the only injury we picked up on international duty, and again, this player's only come back from injury himself, is Victor Lindelof. Lindelof is out injured again. It doesn't surprise me. Lindelof should have been moved on in the summer. And again, we are stuck with a player that's probably not going to get a lot of chances under this manager. He doesn't deserve it, by the way. Lindelof has had his chance, he's had his time, and he needs to be moved on. So that's player number one that will be missing from the weekend's game, because he's done his hamstring again. And the injury he had last time was his hamstring. So if the hamstring injury is bad and it requires surgery, that's Lindelof out to 6 to 8 weeks at least if it requires surgery. And it depends how bad the hamstring injury actually is, because he limped off for Sweden. Was it last week, at the end of last week or the beginning of this week? So Lindelof is out injured. I expect a lot of the players who have been out injured to be back in that squad for Sunday. Mason Mount, Lenny Yoro. I'm not sure about Maguire. I think Kobe Mainoo's way too soon as well. Luke Shaw won't be in that squad either. The most unlikely arrival back into that United squad will be Malacia. Obviously, Malacia featured for the under-21s against, was it Huddersfield, away in one of the cup competitions? Was it the National League Cup that we're competing in? I'm not 100% sure what our under-21s are doing now, but he featured at left back for the under-21s last week, and I think he featured, was it yesterday or the day before, that Manchester United played Altrincham away from home? I think that was in the National League Cup, and Malacia played at left back. So again, that is probably a positive that we finally have a left back who is fit and ready to go straight back in. But you're going to be taking a major risk on a left back who is probably injury prone and is probably not really fully fit to go straight back into first team action. Because if you force Malacia back in, he will just get injured again. And that is not what we want, because if you lose Malacia to injury again, Luke Shaw is a long, long way off from returning. I seriously do not think we will soon see Luke Shaw play for Manchester United again. I think the amount of injuries this guy has got, the amount of injuries he keeps picking up, and the injury prone that he has become, I really, really highly doubt it that he will be a Man United player again, because he's too injury prone. There's a lot of protection around players like Luke Shaw, who, again, should have been moved on. Once you get one injury, and the injury sustained when he broke his leg in 2 places, once that injury happens, you are going to pick up multiple injuries around that injury problem that you've already had. When the warning signs were there, Manchester United should have read the room. If he's going to keep picking up these injuries because of the injury he suffered, why didn't they move him on? It's because there's too much sentimental value from some of these players towards this football club. There's been too much fairness. There's been too much forgiveness. There's been too much favouritism with certain players. And I think Luke Shaw is in that category. I think Luke Shaw is in that bracket of that we have kept him based on sentimental value. I think Luke Shaw should have left the club. I think Luke Shaw should have done the right thing and terminated his contract. And I think he should have done the right thing for the football club going forward, that he clearly cannot be trusted. He clearly ain't going to get back playing for United anytime soon. Luke Shaw is injury prone, and we need to realise this as a fan base and a set of supporters. If you're going to keep faith in these injury prone players, they will keep on picking up injuries. They will keep missing games. They will miss half the season if you put your trust in them. And obviously, with the formation that we're now going in under Ruben Amorim, it's going to be interesting because he plays a 3-4-3. And obviously, it will no longer be a back 4. It will be a back 3, a midfield 5, and a front three. Now, there's a lot of players who aren't going to fit into that category. There's going to be a lot of players who are not going to like that. There's going to be a certain few of them who are going to be massively, massively put out by the way Manchester United are now going to set up under Ruben Amorim. Because of this 3-4-3, you've got 3 centre-backs, you've got 2 wing-backs, which is 5. You've then got 2 midfielders, and then you've got a front 3, and then obviously the goalkeeper. Obviously, clearly the goalkeeper will be Andre Onana, unless something miraculous happens and Buendia gets his chance under Ruben Amorim, which I highly doubt will happen because he's just a backup goalkeeper at the end of the day. He's basically there for the cup games. So I highly unexpect to see Buendia starting in goal. It will be Andre Onana. But I think what might be a relief here and what might be a positive fact, this might end the careers of certain players in that back four, because what we've seen from training so far, we saw a back three the other day of Yoro, Evans, and was it Malacia that we went with in training the other day because other players are away on international duty. That does terrify me if that's the back three we are going with. I don't think that will be, but if that's the back three we're going to start with and go with for the moment, that does really, really concern me because, again, you've got a centre-back in there who should be retired in Johnny Evans. And again, he's done an okay, decent job since he come back to the club in hindsight. But long-term, is that what we're going to do? Are we going to put the trust in the wrong players again that should have been moved on? And again, I think that's the wrong thing to do. I think putting the trust in the old players who have had their time, who have had their chance, who have had their career at the top, need to be moved on because Johnny Evans will not play forever. It just worries me that when I saw that setup in training of Yoro, Evans and Malacia, it really, really concerned me because, again, that might just be down to Martinez, De Ligt, all being on international duty with Argentina and the Netherlands. But it's funny enough that Lisandro Martinez apparently is out injured with a hip injury. I don't know how long Martinez is going to be out for. Is he going to be fully fit for Sunday? And if he's not, that again is a massive, massive worry for Sunday because you've already got Lindelof injured. If Martinez isn't fit and is out injured as well, we've got no Maguire. So we are basically down to the bare bones again. We will have Yoro, who again has only just started first team training in the last couple of weeks, in the last couple of days. Do you risk chucking Yoro straight back in with De Ligt, who featured for, was it the Netherlands on Monday or Tuesday night? They played Bosnia away from home and drew 1-1. So do you chuck De Ligt straight in with Yoro, knowing Yoro's not played a first team minute yet of Premier League football competitively? Or are you going to end up having to risk going with a back three of Evans, De Ligt, and Malacia? That's not what I want to see. I want to see the back three of Yoro, Martinez, De Ligt. That, for me, is our 3 strongest centre-backs we've got at this football club. And it's the truth. That is the massive, massive truth. That those 3 are our strongest centre-back pairings. We don't have anyone else at that level who is able to compete with those 3. Because Maguire needs to be taken out of the equation because he is still injured. If Lindelof's in that equation as well, which it looks like he's going to be with a bad hamstring injury, you're then left with Johnny Evans as the backup, which again, if you lose Martinez or you lose De Ligt or you lose Yoro again, we're absolutely fucked at centre-back because we've had enough problems at left-back. We're basically down to 4 centre-backs now, potentially 3, because if Martinez isn't fit and is injured with this hip injury, and I don't know how bad to an extent this hip injury actually is because he didn't play for Argentina the other night. If you've got no Martinez, we're down to De Ligt, Evans and Yoro. I don't really want to chuck Euro straight back in, but you're probably going to have to, because of the quality he's got in him, and he's probably match fit and he's probably ready to start. And he needs to be given an opportunity instead of having the likes of Delo, Johnny Evans, Lindelof, and Maguire getting any game time, which they, in my view, those four don't deserve now. Those four careers of those four are going to be over with this formation setup. This is going to change everything. The way Man United play, the way we attack, the way we defend, the way we can boss the midfield. This is going to change everything at this football club with the formation setup that Ruben Amorim's going with this 3-4-3. So in my view, we have to start De Ligt no matter what. We've got to start Martinez if he's not match fit or not. And we're going to have to chuck Euro in. I think it's going to be a massive risk chucking Euro in. I think it's going to be a massive risk chucking Martinez in if he's got a hip injury. And De Ligt obviously will have to start. Because like I said, you've got no Maguire. Lindelof's out of a hamstring injury. Johnny Evans can't be trusted. And again, we did see that in training with the Johnny Evans and Malacia Euro combination in the back three. I don't think Ruben Amorim will go with that. I think he will go with the strongest centre-backs that we've got, which should be, in my view, De Ligt, Martinez and Euro. And I'm hoping that will happen. I'm really, really hoping to see that back three containing those three in it. I just don't know the extent of the Martinez hip injury, and I don't know if chucking Euro straight back in is risky. But again, if this keeps Delo out this team, if it keeps Malacia out this team, if it keeps Maguire, Lindelof out this team, and Johnny Evans, that for me is a massive positive going forward for Manchester United Football Club into the future. You keep the bad eggs out of that team. You keep the bad performing players away from the first team. You keep these bang average players on the bench where they belong as the backup. You have to go with your strongest back three, because it's no longer going to be a back four. And what we're hearing already, that the straight away thing that will be happening is the identity will be put on this squad straight away. We didn't see any identity under Erik ten Hag. I still struggle to see today what he was trying to do at this football club. I was struggling to see what style of play we're actually trying to go with. I was struggling to see that on the pitch. I didn't really see where the DNA was. I didn't see where the style of play was on that squad. I didn't know what Erik ten Hag was trying to introduce to that team, because unfortunately that cost him his job and it got him sacked. That was because Man United were lacking any sort of identity or DNA on the team. No one knew what they were doing. No one knew their job. That was the big, big problem at this football club. No one knew how to play the way Man United wanted to play, because Ten Hag was not creating a DNA. He wasn't creating a style of play, and no one, not one player in that squad knew what that was. We were basically trying to play as a team, but we were trying to do it in a way that we didn't know what to do, because we don't know what the manager's trying to get across. Ruben Amorim is coming in straight away, getting that identity across straight away, and it's going to be like that in every single session, every bit of training, every bit of play on the pitch. It will be that identity going straight on that team. And if he can go with that identity, and that could be happening every week, this will be a massive positive fact for Manchester United. And it's going to be a positive outcome. Because if we get that identity and we get that style of play and we get that football that we want to see, this Man United team will go up here. We will start producing the goods again and we will start being more successful. But obviously the new manager bounce will be there. And again, against an Ipswich Town team who have got major confidence from their last Premier League win, which was away at Tottenham, which no one expected under Kieran McKenna. Kieran McKenna is doing a fantastic job at Ipswich. Ipswich, unfortunately, don't have the budget, they don't have the players, and they don't have the squad, really, that is being able to compete at Premier League level, because the budgets that come up from the Championship aren't exactly that great to be able to compete with the bigger teams in the Premier League. This is why you see the three promoted clubs every season that come up end up going straight back down, because they don't have the level of quality, they don't have the squad, they don't have the budget, and unfortunately, they don't have a lot of money to reintroduce new players into their current squads that were used to Championship football across 46 games. No one expected Ipswich to beat Tottenham, even myself. That was a shock victory for Ipswich. And the confidence they've got from that, they will take that in against Manchester United, because they know if they can beat Tottenham, they can produce another cracking result. Ipswich Town are doing a fantastic job. They may be fighting relegation and they may be near the bottom three, but at least they're not in it. That must mean Kieran McKenna is doing something right at Ipswich, and I applaud what they're doing. I have a lot of respect for their fans. I have a lot of respect for their supporters. You will be a Premier League club again next season because you're now starting to get the results that Ipswich want. This is why Ipswich got that win against Tottenham, because Tottenham are way too inconsistent under Postecoglou, and that is why they lost against Ipswich 2 weeks ago. That was a poor result for Spurs. And the job Kieran McKenna is doing, you have got to applaud it. To get him from League One to the Championship promoted, and then to get him from the Championship to the Premier League promoted, back-to-back promotions, no one saw coming at Ipswich. That was because they were the surprise package. No one expected Ipswich to do the back-to-back promotion. No one expected Ipswich to do that double and get back-to-back promotions under a manager that probably, in hindsight, didn't really get given his opportunity at Man United. But the level of Man United jobs up here, the level of Ipswich managers is probably about middle of there. And you're expected to produce results in the Championship. You're expecting to get up from League One. And again, that is because they've got a good, solid foundation of a squad that has got a lot of togetherness, that's got a lot of quality. Ipswich have got players that can cause problems. Sammy Smodics, I mean, what signing he's been from Blackburn Rovers. He's been absolutely quality since they signed him from Blackburn. He's a quality striker. He's a quality player. And then you add in that Delap they brought in from Manchester City. You look at the players that Ipswich are adding into that team. Even Calvin Phillips on loan from Man City. No one expected Ipswich to be able to secure that loan move. He's a quality player who never got given his opportunity at Man City. And that is probably a big regret for Calvin Phillips, going from Leeds to Man City, expecting to get a lot of first-team football. And unfortunately, it didn't happen for Calvin Phillips because the level expected at Man City is up here. And when you get relegated with Leeds, you're kind of going to be down there. You're going to probably not be going to give them that amount of opportunity to prove themselves as a big player that can hit it at the big time at Man City. And he's probably been treated unfairly by Pep, and probably looks back on it hindsight that move from Leeds to Man City was a mistake, and it was a stupid mistake. But Calvin Phillips is now starting to prove a point in Ipswich. This is why he's now getting the game time. This is why you see him in that midfield. And back to the Man United side of you, obviously with the three centre-backs and the two midfielders and the two wing-backs now, it's going to be interesting to see who the two wing-backs are. Again, what I would expect, I'm kind of hoping Malacia will be fit to play. And again, having Malacia back in at left wing-back is a massive positive, because at least it means we've got someone who's actually going to be in that position who is ready to go, because we've seen Delo at left-back all fucking season. I don't think we'll see that anymore. I think now we've got Malacia back in. If you've got a left wing back and a right wing back, that must mean you can balance that back five a lot more better, knowing you've got your left back now fully fit to play. If Malacia gets chucked straight back in, I think it's risky. I think it's a bold move, but it might benefit the back three a lot better, knowing that they've got a comfortable left back at left wing back who is able to get forward with the ball a lot more, who can support the two midfielders who will be in that midfield too, next to Malacia to the right of him, because the midfield now will only be two midfielders instead of three. Now, what I would do with that, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because the right wing back, I fully then again expect Mazraoui to be starting at right wing back, because obviously he was brought in to do a job at right back when he was under Erik ten Hag, and obviously he's probably been one of our best players so far, and probably most unlikeliest of the best performing signings that we brought in the summer transfer window. No one expected Mazraoui to be that good. No one expected Mazraoui to be producing that level of quality straight away in a Man United shirt. Even I've been quite surprised how good Mazraoui's actually been. And I think that's because the chances at Bayern Munich were getting limited, and the quality he wasn't being able to show at Bayern. He's now being able to be shown at Man United because he's getting that game time. He's getting that opportunity, and he's getting he gets picked. And that again is a positive because that means we've got a better right back at right back, which we've been crying out for years. And again, that's going to put a lot of players out of that back four, because that will put Delo out. It will see the end of Lindelof. It will see the end of Maguire and Johnny Evans and possibly Luke Shaw. I think those five altogether, their careers are going to be very, very short-lived, knowing that we're going for a 3-4-3 now, because you've got a left wing back in Malacia who can play there now, and you've got Mazraoui who's well suited at right back, who can be the right wing back. So we've got the back five covered through the back three, and now we've got the two wing backs here and here. So then to the midfield two, I fully expect Agate to carry on. I think Agate has really started to show why we bought him from PSG. Obviously, it did take 3 months to get him. It took way too long to sign him. In hindsight, we should have brought him in a lot quicker than what we did. But I think, again, he was mistreated and misguided under Eric Ten Hag, and Eric Ten Hag didn't probably want him. He wanted McTominay, he wanted Hannibal Mabry. And again, knowing he's been back in the team under Ruud van Nistelrooy 3 games in a row, I think it also shows that Ineos have to be applauded for getting that player in, because that was a missed opportunity for Eric Ten Hag not to use Agate to the level that we wanted to see. And I think without Agate in that team, we looked all over the place in the midfield. We looked at 6s and 7s at the time. We weren't winning that midfield battle. And now Agate has had the last 3 games in a Man United shirt to prove himself. He's starting to show why that he can do it. He's starting to show the quality that I think probably now in hindsight, PSG are probably missing. PSG are probably lacking that holding midfielder. And again, they have got one in João Neves, who is a quality holding CDM for Portugal, and PSG is a quality top player. But I think, you look at that PSG team now, it's not the dominant side it used to be. There's no more Mbappe, no more Neymar, no more Messi. Agate has to be in that equation as well. Agate was always starting quite a lot of games at PSG in before this season and last season. He was starting a lot of games for them and was probably one of their best standout players. And again, his PSG career didn't work out, did it? It went very, very downhill for Agate at PSG, because I think under Enrique, again, he was really, really badly treated and he wasn't given the opportunity. He wasn't given the game time. And the same was happening at Man United under Ten Hag, is that Ten Hag refused to use Agate, because I think Ten Hag had an obsession with McTominay. He had an obsession with Hannibal Mabry, and he wanted both of them kept over the quality of Agate. And I think in the last 2 games, you've seen that quality finally come through. And you look how solid the midfield was. I mean, I no one expected me to be on the side of positivity from the midfield now, especially where I thought the Casemiro, Fernandes and Agate combo wouldn't work in that midfield. It's really, really starting to pay off in the last 3 games. And I think it shows that they're all bringing the best out of each other. You're getting Fernandes a lot more of an attacking sense. He scored so many goals since that midfield's gone back to those 3. And I think a lot of those midfielders now are going to find it hard to get in that team because of the way we are setting up. Because I think, for me, we need to stick with the midfield we've got and go with Casemiro and Agate, because that now seems to be working. And again, I hold my hands up. I wasn't a big favour of that midfield 3 being that setup in the first place. I was very concerned that a lot of the attacking play is going to come from Bruno Fernandes, and I wasn't sure how that was really going to work for Man United, where we were playing 2 holding CDMs. And again, I hold my hands up again. I was wrong. I never thought that could work. But all of a sudden, you're starting to see the best of Casemiro. And I think that's because you've got 2 midfielders now doing that holding job to protect that back four, because it was a back 4 that we were using. But now it's a back 3. I still expect there to be a lot more protection from Agate and Casemiro still, because they're going to be the 2 midfielders sat in front of the back 3, but they've also now got the support from the left wing back and the right wing back. So there's going to be basically a midfield 4 now instead of a midfield 3, because you've got the left wing back that's going to also help protect the back three as well, and you've got the right wing back that will protect the back three also. But it will also help the two holding midfielders through Agate and Casemiro, because they've got that extra defense blanket now, that if we get into a spot of bother, those two will also be able to help get better, because they've got the extra player either side of them to help protect that back three from getting attacked at. So I think for me, if they can both do the job they've both shown in their last 3 games with the Casemiro, Agate and Fernandes setup, that will work magnificently under Ruben Amorim. I think that will be a quality setup to go with. And I'm hoping that Mazraoui will be able to support Casemiro from his side. And I'm kind of hoping Malacia will be able to support Agate from the left wing back position, because obviously that will be the left back slot. So I'm kind of hoping that will be what we will go with as well, and to help give Casemiro and Agate that extra support. But it will be interesting to see if you get Fernandes starting in that front three, because obviously Fernandes is more of a centre attacking midfielder, and he's more of a player that likes to get the ball to the attacking front three instead of trying to be inside the front three. For me, that might be a negative starting him in that midfield three, or we might put him in the number 10 slot just behind the 2 strikers that we will go with. And again, do we play 2 strikers is a big ask. Because for me at the moment, if we go with 2 strikers, it's got to be Rashford and Højlund. But then do you go with Xerxes and Højlund, or do you go Garnacho and Højlund? And again, I don't think Garnacho starting as a false striker next to Højlund's going to be really benefiting him. And again, we might not see, in hindsight, the proper left wing back and the proper right wing back. We might see Garnacho in the left wing back, and then Ahmad on the right wing back, Agate, Casemiro in the midfield too, then Fernandes, Rashford and Højlund as his 2 attacking strikers. I've never thought that might work. It might work. I'm not saying it's going to, but based on the goals not being scored, it's a very, very big problem, because you look at Xerxes, his Man United career isn't going to last long with the lack of goals coming from him. The same question has to go for Højlund, and the same has to go for Marcus Rashford. We've got 3 players that are really, really struggling to find the back of the net, and most of the attacking product is coming through Ahmad and Garnacho. I think for me, they've probably been Man United's best 2 attacking players so far this season, in my view. Going forward, they create more of a threat. They create more opportunities in front of goal. They get the ball into the box a lot more. They're a lot more of an attacking sense. And for me, that is what we are going to have to probably stick with. We will have to put Garnacho at left wing back and get Ahmad at right wing back to help that front three more. Because when you've got Fernandes now out of the midfield 3 into the attacking front 3, because we want to play with the 3-4-3 setup, Fernandes is going to be expecting to get that ball a lot from, obviously, if Ahmad's at left right wing back, and then with Garnacho at left wing back, so helping to get the ball more forward to Casemiro and Agate in the midfield, who can now get the ball more forward to our front 3, which will probably be Fernandes, Højlund, Rashford. Then I think that might be a positive, because if we can go with that team in hindsight, that's probably our best setup under this manager. And again, it's made things really complicated, because I'm more of a traditional 4-3-3 setup man myself. I'm more of a 4-3-3 tradition where I play a back 4, a midfield 3, and then an attacking front wing, a left winger, a right winger, striker, 1 centre attacking midfielder, 2 centre attacking midfielders, 1 CDM, left back, right back, 2 centre backs, goalkeeper. That's what I would normally go with. And I hope the players get those ideas across from the manager quite quickly and that they're able to perform the way he wants them to be able to perform. Because if this 3-4-3 doesn't work out and his formation isn't going to benefit, I dread to think what will go wrong, because this is the setup Ruben Amorim wants to come with and wants to get that across to the players. And obviously, the players can come out in hindsight and say, oh, it's been a top session, been top training, it's been great. If that doesn't start producing on the pitch, we're going to end up having to root back to the old ways. That's not what we want, because if we do that, then another manager's going to fail. And I don't think Ruben Amorim will take any prisoners. I think he's a manager that isn't going to tolerate any bollocks. I don't think he's a manager you would want to get on the wrong side of. And I think he's a manager that isn't going to take any excuses. This is the identity. This is the setup. This is the formation. This is the way we're going to play. No ifs, no buts, no excuses. Those players ain't got anywhere to hide now, because we are taking a major risk of this manager. It's a huge, huge ask. It's a huge, huge change of the way we're going to play. The Erik ten Hag days are gone. And again, when you're bringing in his own coaching staff as well, you basically know there's going to be no more favouritism from certain United coaches, because all the coaches that Erik ten Hag brought in have all been sacked. Coaches that were already at the club before Erik ten Hag were also shown the door as well. So Man United are trying to clear out this favouritism tag out the football club, because that was also making Ten Hag fail, and it was making Ruud van Nistelrooy become the scapegoat. I think removing Ruud van Nistelrooy was probably the best thing for this football club to do, because if you would have kept Ruud and you didn't get Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon, we're going 10 years back. And the problem is, if it started going well under Ruud, which it was, and by the end of the season, we were getting destroyed by mid-table clubs like it did with Solskjaer, we would have ended up giving Ruud van Nistelrooy the job on a permanent basis. And again, it would have all ended in tears quite quickly, and it would have been quite dramatic, because this happened to Solskjaer. If you gave him the job, which he shouldn't have got, his legacy's been ruined of what he did for this football club, because the way he managed us into a complete mess, which it all ended in tears. That MUTV interview when he broke down and cried, that was because he didn't want to go. He didn't want to be sacked, but he had to be, because we were getting worse. And I think if you would have kept Ruud and given him the job permanently as well, it would have all ended in tears again. And no players can be used and no players can get away with the scapegoat now. A lot of these players know now that they can't turn to anyone. They can't turn to Ruud. They can't turn to Darren Fletcher. They can't turn to the favourites inside that United coaching setup now if the manager isn't going to listen. The manager will bring identity. He will bring structure, and he will bring a no brutal attitude that these players haven't got anywhere to hide now. You can't slag me off. You can't go behind my back, because your favouritism days are gone now. That's got to be the main article. The favouritism of certain players in that starting lineup has got to stop. Because if that stops, Man United will get better. And if you would have kept Ruud, the favouritism would have carried on. Rashford, Delot, Maguire, Lindelof, Evans, Malacia, Shaw, Anthony, Mount, Ericsson. The list goes on. The list goes on of how many favourites were in that Man United dressing room under Ten Hag. And if you remove all Ten Hag's coaches and coaches that were already up there before Ten Hag, the players can't go to anyone now, because the players know, shit, this is a new manager. Where's Ruud gone? He's gone. Ranieri went as well. All the coaches that were brought in have all been sacked. This is a brand new manager bringing in his own coaches because he wants to use his coaches. He doesn't want to use United's coaches. He doesn't want them, because he knows if Ruben Amorim would have been given the job and his coaches wouldn't have been brought in, I think we'd be in big trouble, because I don't think Ruben Amorim would have been able to get across what he's trying to do, because the coaches that have worked with Ruben Amorim have all got that experience of working with him at Sporting. So I think that's a positive going forward. So expect a good debut. I'm hoping for a debut 3 points. I'm hoping for a result against Ipswich. I do expect us to get that result, because Ipswich are in a relegation battle. But I said that result against Tottenham has boosted the odds for Ipswich to get an unlikely result. But I think the new manager bounce will be there. And I think with the positivity that's coming out from certain players already, this might be a positive or this might be a negative. But I'm expecting a positive result. Scoreline wise, I'm going to go 4 or 5-0 because I think Ipswich are there for the taking. So I hope you enjoyed this live Premier League look ahead. Please hit the like button, the share button. Please keep subscribing to the channel, United Red Devils 20 on YouTube. Share the video, hit the tweet button, hit the retweet button. Always remember the notification bell. Put that bell on all times to receive dedicating upcoming brand new videos, shorts and live streams that we've got planned for these last week in November, next week, and the last month in 2024 in December this year as well. We've got plenty of brand new content planned for you next year in 2025. Got some brand new ideas I want to go with, brand new games, brand new content, brand new games that we've never done, games I've never done in my life. And then please join me for the full-time reaction from Portman Road, which hopefully is a dream start for Ruben Amorim. Is a great managerial debut for him in the Premier League. I'm hoping for a positive start under him. I'm hoping for the 3 points on Sunday. But it's going to be a tough ask because Ipswich did get that win against Tottenham in their last Premier League outing. But all I can say is, let's see what happens. So enjoy us for Wednesday evening. Stay safe, be nice, and be kind to each other. You're all legends, you're all legendary, and I'll see you all on the next one.